Today we are going to understand the chapter The Freedom Struggle of 1857, Part 1 in History. After defeating the Mughal Empire, the Marathas accomplished its power in India in the 17th century. When the Mughals existed in 1600, at that time the British arrived in India. Later they established East India Company. The objective of East India Company then was to promote trade and business between India and England. At the ports of Calcutta and Surat cities, godowns and offices were set up. After getting permission from Mughal Emperor Jahangir, trade started flourishing. The British during that stay in India could very quickly observe that Indian kings were divided a lot. Seeing this division of the rulers, the British understood that it was not very difficult to rule India and for achieving their sinister plan. They just needed to deploy single policy of divide and rule. Indians were ill treated and poorly behaved by the British, which outraged the people of India. The main problem with the Britishers was that they only came in India to exploit its resources, which could hardly be seen by the Indian rulers of that time. But gradually the people understood the faith of their land and gave a tough fight against the Britishers. In 1857, a great struggle took place in India, which completely shook the British government. This struggle did not arise all of a sudden. Earlier as well, many such struggles took place in India against the British. The scope of the struggle of 1857 and its background was taken into consideration by V.D. Savarkar in his book The Indian War of Independence 1857. So people used to read that book. Later, many revolutionaries got inspiration from the book to fight against the British. At every place where the British rule was established in India, the local people had to bear the ill effects of British government. The Indians started feeling that they are exploited in every strata due to the company's rule. This resulted in increase of discontent against their rule. Farmers and common people became bankrupt during the company rule. One fight took place against the British. It was the Paika Rebellion. The Paika Rebellion is one among the peasant rebellions that took place in India when the British East India Company was expanding its military enterprise. From medieval times, there was a system of Paikas existing in Odisha. The standing army of various independent kings were known as Paika. Rent free lands were granted to them for cultivating by the king. The Paikas earned their livelihood through it. In return, they were supposed to stand by the king's side in case of eruption of war. In the year of 1803, the English conquered Odisha. They took over the hereditary rent free lands granted to the Paikas. This made the Paikas angry. Similarly, in common man's life had also become miserable because of rise in salt price due to tax imposed on it by the British. This resulted in an armed rebellion of Paikas against the British in 1817. The Paika rebellion was fought under the leadership of Bakshi Jaganbandhu Vidyabihar. Peasants and artisans had their own reasons to rise up in arms and side with traditional elite. Increasing demands for land revenue were forcing large number of peasants into growing indebtedness or selling their lands. The economic decline of the peasantry was reflected in 12 major and numerous minor famines from 1763 to 1857. In these years, there were more than 40 major rebellions apart from 100 of minor ones. Displaced peasants and demobilized soldiers of Bengal and dispossessed zamindars were the first to rise up in the Sannyasi rebellion. It was followed by the Chor uprising, which covered five districts of Bengal and Bihar from 1766 to 1772. The peasants of Bengal participated in the rebellion led by Sannyasi, the Muslim ascetics. Here you can see here in the picture the last one. It is written down the Sannyasi revolt. So these were the Sannyasis. They were also the Muslim ascetics. Similar revolts took place in Gujarat, Rajasthan, Maharashtra, and South India. One of the earliest freedom fighters, Umaji Naik, was an Indian revolutionary who challenged the British rule in India. Around 1826 to 1832, he fought against the East India Company and company rule. Soon after the fall of Maratha Empire, Umaji raised a tiny army named as Ramoshis and also some local youths against the British. His anti-British manifesto asked the countrymen to fight against the foreign rulers. They drew a declaration and appealed to fight against the British and overthrow the government. They inspired people in Pune, Satara, Ahmednagar, Solapur, Nashik, Bhor, etc. He was collecting people from different areas to fight against the British. The British got to know about this and wanted to capture him. The British government announced a bounty of 10,000 rupees. Betrayed by a Ramoshi named Nana Raghu Chauhan, British arrested him, enquired, then held him guilty and hanged till death in the year 1832 in Pune. The Indian tribes and forest communities also challenged the British rule. The British laws put restriction on forest resources and the livelihood of the tribes and forest communities. It was dependent on forest resources. Consequently, Bihar, Kolam area of Chota Nagpur, Gonds of Orissa, Santals of Bihar, Gadkaris of Kolhapur, and Fond and Sawat from Konkan also fought against the British rule. Some zamindars and royal classes from different territories rebelled against the British. When there was discontent among the peasants, tribes, zamindars against the British, and also there was discontent among the Indian sepoys against the British. In the army of East India Company, there were many Indian sepoys. They were ill treated by the company. They, their salary and allowances, the tips, were very less compared to the British soldiers. In 1806 at Vellore and in 1824 at Barakpur, the revolt took up a fierce form. All these rebellions took place in their respective territories. The rebellions were local in nature and single handed. We have seen that there were many revolts fought against the British. Now we will understand the various causes for the struggle of 1857. Why did this revolts took place? What were the causes? So during pre-British period, there were many kingdoms in India. At that time, whatever changes took place at the center never affected the village system. The village system continued as it is. But when the British came into rule, the British changed the prevalent system and tried to set up a new system. Looking at the changing nature of village system created a feeling of instability and insecurity in the minds of the people. The causes are responsible for this rebellion range from social, religious, administrative, political to economic factors. So now we will discuss the economic causes of the War of 1857. At the time of establishment of the East India Company, the economic condition of India was much better given that it had a trade surplus with most of its trading partners. The Indian trade and industry were well developed. Villages were self reliant in terms of production. The peasants and artisans enjoyed protection from local rulers. When the British came into power, they disturbed all the policies of Indian rulers. by introducing the British system and forcing people to follow the British system. In economic causes, the first thing which got destroyed was agriculture. It led to destruction of agriculture. Under the British rule, there was a severe deterioration of the condition of Indian agriculture. British used to take revenue from zamindars and zamindar used to take money from the peasants, the cultivators. The zamindars left no saving with the cultivators, so they were not able to invest in the advancement of agriculture. The company also did not spend the revenue of the land for the benefit of the land and its people. Hence, the productivity of land was reduced over time. The British introduced a new revenue system to increase their income taxes. Taxes were forcibly extracted from the farmers. As a result of it, the agriculture system collapsed. So there were three major systems of land revenue collection existed in India. They were Zamindari, Riyatwari and Mahalwari. So the Zamindari system, also known as permanent settlement, Zamindari system was introduced by Cornwallis in 1793 through Permanent Settlement Act. It was introduced in provinces of Bengal, Bihar, Orissa and Varanasi. Zamindars were recognized as the owners of the land. Zamindars were given the rights to collect the rent from the peasants. The realized amount would be divided into 11 parts. So, one of the 11 parts of the share belongs to Zamindars, and 10 parts from the 11 parts of the share belongs to East India Company. Then here comes the Riyatwari system. Riyatwari system was introduced by Thomas Munro in 1820. Major areas of introduction include Madras, Bombay, parts of Assam provinces of the British India. In Riyatwari system, the ownership rights were handed over to the peasants. British government collected taxes directly from the peasants. The revenue rates of Riyatwari system were 50% where the lands were dry. So where the lands were dry, the revenue was 50% and 60% in the irrigated land. The next is Mahalwari system. Mahalwari system was introduced in 1833 during the period of William Bentinck. The Mahalwari system had many provisions of both the Zamindari system and Riyatwari system. In this system, the land was divided into mahals. Each mahal comprises one or more villages. Ownership rights were vested with the peasants. The villages committee was held responsible for collection of the taxes. So this was the land revenue collection system in the British India Company. The destruction of traditional industries to sell the British goods in India and enjoy profit was the policy of the British. They imposed heavy taxes on the local industries. The artisans were forced to sell their goods to the British or the prices set by the British. The cheap machine made goods from the Britain made the products of Indian artisans wasteful of money because Indian goods were expensive than British goods because the Indian goods were handmade. Due to this policy of British, the handicraft and textile industry of India were ruined. Many Indian artisans became unemployed. They had growing discontent in their mind against the British due to their economic loss. Cause is social cause. Before the British rule, Indian society was divided on the basis of religion, language, and caste. The Hindu society was divided into four varnas and multiple subcastes. So here you can see in this picture there were four varnas, the caste system in the Hindus were first Brahmins, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, Shudras, and the last were the Dalits. They were also known as the untouchables. The Muslims were also divided into different castes and tribes. So in the Muslim caste system was the first one were Sayyids, then Sheikhs, then Mughals, Pathans, and then the Dalits. The Dalits were also known as Arzals in Muslim caste system. The Hindu society was oversensitive to the ideas of purity and severe restrictions were imposed by caste rules. By and large, there were many orthodox principles governing religious practices in India. Indians were assumed to have been a deeply conservative people whose traditions and ways of life had been disregarded by their British rulers. Reformers, new laws, new technology, even Christianity had been forced upon them. British were guided by the assumption that they belonged to a superior race. There was a racial superiority in the British. They felt that they were the higher people than the Indians due to their fair look. They were much fairer than the Indians, and therefore they ill treated the Indians. Then they introduced the missionary activities. British allowed and promoted missionary activities in India, for they believed that the spread of Christianity and English education would help in the political enslavement of India. There was a suspicion brewing in the minds of the general public about the activities of the Christian missionaries, who on one hand tried to convert the Hindus and Muslims to Christianity, and on the other hand, they openly criticized the evils among the Hindu and Muslim faiths. There was a general feeling among the Indians that it was a deliberate policy of the British government for their mass conversion to Christianity. Then there were socio-religious reforms. So British passed many acts in India to bring about the reforms in the age-old socio-religious practices among Hindus and Muslims, such as the abolition of sati practice and child marriage, legalizing widow remarriage, promoting female education, prohibiting animal sacrifices, etc. All these were correct from social point of view, but the Indians thought that it is an interference in their lifestyle, and hence they were dissatisfied. These social and religious reforms created suspicion in the minds of people who considered them as interference in their faith. This sense of fear was compounded by the decisions of the British to tax, tax the mosque and temple lands and legislation such as Bengal Sati Regulation Act 1829, Religious Disabilities Act 1856, etc., which modified Hindu customs and practices. So the next cause is the political cause. So in those days, there was no conception of India as a country. There were Bengalis, Hindustanis, Sikhs, Rajputs, Marathas, etc., but no Indian. There was an absence of unity among different regional powers in India. When British forces attacked one power, example Mysore, so other powers, example Marathas, came forward to support British forces instead of the Mysore forces. There was also disunity along the religious lines. Political grievances of different sections of Indian society, such as peasants, zamindars, artisans, princes, etc., against the British rule, were different and were mainly driven by self interest. So, the first policy was subsidiary alliance. Subsidiary alliance was a system devised by Lord Wellesley in 1798, where the British would provide army or any kind of support to the Indian rulers, and in return, the Indian rulers would accept the British government into the Indian administration. So, all those who entered into such an alliance with the British had to accept certain terms and conditions, such as rulers had to disband their military force, allow the British to position their troops within the kingdom, and act in accordance with the advice of the British resident who was now to be attached to the court. The subsidiary alliance was often forced on the local rulers, who lost all their powers and prestige under the said arrangement. Due to this, they harbored a grudge against the British Raj and found an opportunity in the Sepoy Mutiny to equal scores with the British. Then comes the Dalhousie's aggressive policy of annexation. It was the doctrine of lapse. It is believed by many historians that Lord Dalhousie led the foundation of Indian Rebellion of 1857. He was driven by conviction to bring all the Indian states ruled by local rulers into fold of British administration, for which he started to use doctrine of lapse. Under the doctrine of lapse, the British annexed any Indian state where the ruler did not have a male heir. That means the ruler does not have any son, his own son. Under this spurious doctrine, he annexed Satara, Sambalpur, Jhansi, and Nagpur, etc. which angered the local ruler, who had to now live in the looming fear of annexation of their heirs of their state by the British. Adopting heir was an ancient practice among the Indian rulers. By depriving them of their right and by forcibly annexing their states, British made many enemies out of those local rulers, who ultimately became leaders of 1857 revolt. Example: Rani Lakshmi Bai. So you might have heard the story of Rani Lakshmi Bai, where Rani Lakshmi Bai's son was died and she had to adopt a son. And but the British put this policy of doctrine of lapse on Rani Lakshmi Bai, that she can't adopt a son and put him on the throne. She has to have her own son, but she didn't have her own son. So this was the doctrine of lapse. Then comes the denial of right to succession. The right to succession was not only denied to many Hindu princes but also to the once mighty Mughals. On the death of Prince Fakhruddin in 1856, whose succession had been recognized only conditionally by Lord Dalhousie, Lord Canning, announced that the next prince on succession would have to renounce the regal title, royal palaces, and other privileges. Mughals were the symbol of political unity of India, and this British move to dethrone them angered the Indian people. Soon after the breakout of the revolt, Bahadur Shah, the last Mughal emperor, was made the symbolic head of the Great Revolt, and Delhi became its center. Then comes the misuse of political power. They used their political power to destroy Indian trade and industries with a policy of discrimination in tariff and import and export policies, which ultimately destroyed Indian economy and caused economic impoverishment of India and its people. They used their political smartness in front of the Indian people. Then hatred against the British rule. Annexation of Indian states and the removal of the local rulers led to the dissolution of the court, which resulted in the loss of patronage to musicians, dancers, artisans, administrative officials, army men, and so on. These people lost their source of livelihood. What enraged the people was how British land revenue settlements had dispossessed landholders, both big and small, and foreign commerce had driven artisans and weavers to ruin. These people harbored resentment against the British rule and became active participants in the revolt of 1857. So, next was the discontent among the Indian soldiers. So, next cause was about the Indian soldiers. So, the sepoys, a generic term used for native Indian soldiers of the Bengal army, they were called as sepoys. The soldiers in the company's army came from peasant families. Sepoys were only peasants in uniform, and their psyche was not detached from the rural life. Sepoys in their tenure of service in the army could only be promoted to the rank of Subedar, and their emolument was also less compared to the British counterparts. The relationship of the sepoys with their superior white officers underwent a significant change and became strained in the years preceding the uprising of 1857. So, the point was the discrimination in pay and promotion. Indian soldiers were not given the posts above the subedars, so the promotion prospects for the Indian sepoys were restricted in the British Indian Army. Some sepoys wanted special bhatta, also called as allowance, if sent on overseas due to duty, but after Sindh, Awadh, and Punjab were annexed, the soldiers no longer received extra pay or the allowance. It posted there because this was no longer considered foreign service. So the Indian soldiers were not given the higher post than than the British soldiers, and they were also not given the extra allowances, the special allowances when they send the army, the soldiers to the overseas duty. So the Indian soldiers were not getting the allowances. The soldiers had other grievances too. They were paid salaries less than their English counterparts. So they were also paid the salaries less, and there were no allowances as well as no higher post was there for the Indian soldiers. As a result, the morale of the Indian sepoys was very low, and they started destructing their officers. These instances contributed in their own way to the revolt of 1857. So the next cause was immediate cause. It was all about the Enfield rifle. It is said that it was a rumor that was spread at that time about the Enfield rifle that the cartridges was wrapped with fat of cow and pig. Here you can see one cartridge at the left side of your picture. There is a cartridge which was greased with cow and pig fat. So for Hindus, the cow was the sacred, and for the Muslims, the pig was forbidden for them. And the Indian sepoys were not allowed to remove such kind of wrappers from the cartridge. So they had to remove that those cartridges from their mouth. So that was very unholy for them. So that is why this came out of anger from the sepoys about the cartridges as well, that they had to remove the cartridges which were made of fat of cow and pig, which was sacred for cow and forbidden for Muslim. The pigs were forbidden for the Muslims. So this cause was not the only one cause to fight against the British, but as we have seen, there were many other causes, and all of them came together, and there was a revolt against the British. So now we will do the question and answers of this lesson. So the first question is fill in the blanks. V.D. Savarkar named the struggle of 1857 as dash. V.D. Savarkar named the struggle of 1857 as War of Independence. Dash united the Ramoshis to rebel against the British. Umaji Naik united the Ramoshis to rebel against the British. In Dash at Vellore, the revolt took up a fierce form. In 1806 at Vellore, the revolt took up a fierce form. Question number 2. Explain the following statements with reasons. The first one was the Paikas made armed rebellion against the British. Why did the Paikas made armed rebellion against the British? The answer is the Paikas were the traditionally armed force of Odisha. They were warriors and were charged with policing functions during peacetime. The Paikas were separated into three ranks, notable by their occupation and the weapons they handled. The Paika rebellion, also called the Paika Bidroha, it was armed rebellion against the British East India Company. The Paikas united in revolt under their leader Bakshi Jagan Bandhu Jagannath. He was projected as the symbol of Orissa unity. The Paika rebellion had several social, economic, and political reasons. The Paikas were alienated by the British, who took over the hereditary rent free lands granted to them after the attack of Khudra. They were also subjected to shakedown and oppression at the hands of the British government and its servants. The next question is there was discontent among the Hindu and Muslim sepoys. So the answer is sepoys in the time of British rule were regarded as powerless and hopeless peasants in uniform. UP and Bihar, the Uttar Pradesh and Bihar were the regions occupied by the sepoys. Annexation of Oudh by British led to maladministration. The sepoys began to develop discontent. The main reasons are discrimination of sepoys in all the ways, low wages and constant physical abuse from the bosses, no permission to put caste marks or religious clothes. Question number 3. Answer the following questions in brief. So the first question is what were the social causes behind the struggle of 1857? The revolt of 1857 is called as Sepoy Mutiny. It was a great revolt and the first war of Indian independence. It is a turning point in the account of pre-independent and early colonial Indian. The revolt was the result of religious insult to the sepoys. So the social causes behind the revolt are political and organizational. Under the British rule, each region became a scene of resistance and revolt. The landholders were so depressed and unsatisfied. The expansionist and annexationist policies of the British power in India made all the Indian rulers, Hindu and Muslim, look with the doubt and developed hate towards to the British power in India. Economic policies of the British resulted in ruin all the segments of the Indian society. The social and religious partiality of the British was unbearable, viewing the Indians as racially inferior and culturally backwards made many problems in Indians. And the way they restricted on all the caste issues and their caste followings, that was the social causes behind the struggle of 1857. Thank you, students. So now we will meet in our next session.